So do you think this is where your drive for doing like anthologies came from? Like this, like particular, like doing this before you even broke into comics? Like, do you think inspired this?
Yeah, I think like everyone has different ideas about like what makes a good collaboration. But what's nice about comics compared to other mediums is you have the option of having as small or as large a team as you want. One person can make a comic by themselves.
Yeah.
But if you want to, you can bring on a inker, a colorist, a letterer, someone to help you with the script. Like there's so many different ways you can collaborate. And I think that's one of the things that's exciting about the medium. And that's something that, like, especially starting out in my career, I want to explore that. I want to see, what works and what doesn't for me as a creator. Some of the like first conventions that I went to when I first started showing my portfolio, I'd get feedback from different creators who were like, they'd look at my stuff and go, maybe you're a writer more than an artist. They're like, and I'm like, I get what you're saying. They're like, we see so many guys who can draw an amazing pinup, but they cannot tell a story. And one of the things that I got those first couple of years was like, you can tell a story. Your art's not quite up to snuff yet. Like, focus on the storytelling. And I took that and I go, well, I'm still gonna draw, right?
Yeah,
but I'm not gonna worry so much about being clever with my layouts or anything, I'm gonna fopfocus on my drawing so that next year I'm not getting those drawing notes. People are just appreciating the story and not saying but.
So what did you do to get better at drawing, I guess, to avoid those notes? What are some of the things that you did, like the routines?
A lot of it is just putting in the mileage. When I was in film school, I was not drawing nearly as much as I do now. When I was I worked for Walmart for 10 years. So when I was in retail, I would draw on all of my breaks, and I'd draw throughout my lunch break. And, I would be very intentional about the way that I drew. So instead of just like doodling, I would create exercises for myself, and I'd look all over the internet ideas and talk to other creators about things to do. But like one thing I did, I spent several months during my lunch breaks. I had a stack of National Geographics, and I drew every single face in the National Geographics to try to avoid, like, I didn't want to only have one face that I drew, right? A lot of artists, even great artists, kind of have their default face that they draw, and everyone kind of looks the same. And they might tweak the hair or the colors might do some of the heavy lifting. But...
So in issue 3 though, were you the one that drew there was like a page of just multiple different faces? Was that you? The emphasis on the lady with I think the amputee hand with the prosthetic.
That's always the one that I drew.
Yeah, dude. So you could definitely tell, like, you are able to really distinguish like the cultural differences and stuff between those characters. I think it's really important to note that, like, because when I seen that, I'm like, wow, like this wasn't like just like a character that was just done like in each race. You could tell there was like cultural differences with them too.
And like, I didn't use photo references, which I use photo references all the time. But for this story, I didn't. I was trying to get it done fast, so I'm like, I wanted to let my art be my art. And not worry so much about everything being technically accurate like I sometimes do. And so like that's where that comes from. I mean, is the months that I spent sitting in the break room just drawing. Dude,
it's so funny you said that. I remember when I was telling you how my podcast operated before I even did interviews. I was learning how to do interviews because a big thing for me, I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to suck at it. And I think that's like everyone's thing. They don't want to do it because they don't want to suck at it. I wanted mine to be good. I wanted people to be like excited to come on the show. And so I would listen to, while I was on lunch, read my comics and listen to things about how to be more engaging, how to actually do a podcast properly, and how to engage with like your guests. And, while I wasn't like drawing, like I was actively like listening to as many interviews as I could, from as many different like topics and platforms as I could, because I feel like you can learn from everything. And it's the work and the mileage that you put in really shows like the end result. And man, like Stomped is just amazing. I'm so stoked to get on it. By the way, let's start this interview. We we didn't even do the official introduction. So guys, by the way, I am Cody. I am your Cape Crusader. We are here joined by my good friend Ross Radke. And man, holy crap, I am just already, before the interview, we pressed live, and now we are officially starting the interview. It's just been nothing but great conversation. I'm ready to break into Stomped, the Kaiju comic anthology. Congratulations, first and foremost, on successfully funding your Kickstarter, man. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, doing good.
Yes. So man, first and foremost, why don't you give us a little bit of an introduction on yourself? The classic, who are you? What led you to here? We talked about it previously, but I think it's worthwhile bringing it up again. Just what led you here? You started out with film and stuff, and a lot of that is bleeding into Stomp. So I think it's let's talk about it all.
Okay. Yeah. So my name is Ross, and I've been drawing my whole life. I have a degree in film. And after graduating, I kind of knew that I wasn't going to pursue that. It took me a few years to figure out what I really wanted to do, because visual storytelling has always been so important to me, and it's always been something like I felt compelled to do. Every time I was drawing, I wasn't just trying to draw a cool picture. I was getting story ideas down on paper, and so I don't know why it took me 4 years after college to like click like, hey, maybe I should do comics, because I've always loved comics. But once it clicked, I was like, this is it. This is what I need to do. And so around 2014, 2015, I started really getting serious, putting together some portfolio pages, and like really learning about the medium, absorbing as much as I could. And I started going to Emerald City and Rose City Comic Con, as I grew up near Seattle, and I live in Oregon right now. So those are the two conventions closest to me, and started showing my work to creators, editors, artists, writers, and getting feedback, and started doing a few little projects here and there with writers for little anthologies. The main hurdle was just the number of hours I was working in retail. So I worked at Walmart for 10 years, I mentioned earlier, and the last 2 years I was a salaried manager. I was working, commuting an hour each way to the store that I worked at, and working over 60 hours a week.
Oh man, and I'm sure you were dealing with just so much just craziness too. How was that, like being a manager of a Walmart? That had to have been just taxing itself. That's a whole, you don't want to get me started on that. But, so I will say, I sometimes forget about this project, so I want to mention it. One of the little anthology things I did was a Kaiju Anthology. Someone had reached out to me, a writer, and kind of pitched me a couple ideas, and I'm like, well, how about like something like this? And I drew it while I was doing management training for Walmart. So we had like a 6 weeks of management training, and I busted through this project. And after that, there's 2 years of my life that I'll never get back, where it was impossible to get anything done. So I think this is available still on like Amazon, Colossal Chaos. So I have a short in there that awesome. I drew. And then that was it. And then I'm like trying to figure out like, how can I get more stuff out there? Like So what was that short about though? Like, what all did you try to get accomplished in it?
It's it's only 4 pages. So it's these researchers on this alien planet, and they're trying to collect a sample from this, I guess that's the wrong page, but kind of hard to see with the camera backwards. And then it changes color to camouflage, and then an even larger creature pops out at the end. So just really like simple little thing.
So with something that many pages, like what goes into, I guess because you want your story to have, something, some sort of impact, so writing something in that, like what goes into writing something short like that? I mean,
it's kind of like, I kind of just view it as like a gag strip, right? Where so I mean, and that was in, let's see, scripted by Becca Lee Gardner and lettered by Robin Jones. Just want to make sure I'm giving everyone the credit.
Yeah.
So like, it's just a little gag where these people there's a big monster. They try to catch it in a trap to take some samples from it, and then a larger creature comes. Like, there's not a whole lot to it. It's just kind of like a little fun little like visual gag. The idea, like, something the size of an elephant has a natural like camouflage defense because there's something bigger out there.
Oh, okay, yeah, I gotcha. So when you started diving into the kaiju stuff, what was like your film, like when you were doing films, like what was like your first project about compared to your first kaiju project?
So in film school, I did a couple fun things. It was a film production class or film production program. So I had done, we're in Montana. I went to film school at Montana State University. I worked as basically just a production assistant for a senior film my sophomore year. That was a little Western, kind of very cliche, shoot 'em up, bang, bang. And I convinced them to let me edit it for them. And so like and that was a lot of fun. I did my senior film was a short horror called Taxidermy, about a taxidermist whose animals come back to life and start killing people. And I still think it's a great concept.
That is a really cool concept, dude.
Yeah, I might try to turn it into a graphic novel someday. But the short itself was like, there's some things that we pulled off that I think I'm proud of, but for the most part, it's not great. But yeah, I wrote some like feature-length screenplays and things for classes. But yeah, so after film school, I guess your original question, like, how does that tie in with the kaiju stuff? Like, at that point, I was very casual kaiju fan. Like, Cloverfield came out. I really enjoyed that film. I'd seen the 1998 Godzilla, and grew up on Power Rangers and things, right? So I kind of had an awareness of the genre, but I really didn't take a deep dive into it until I started working on Stomped. So now, in the last 2 years, I've watched almost 100 kaiju films.
What would you say your top 5 favorites were? Or even like top 3. We can shorten it up to 3.
Off the top of my head, it's kind of hard because like it's really hard to compare a Showa era, 60s and 70s Godzilla film with something that came out last year, right?
Like yeah.
But I did really enjoy Shin Godzilla. I really enjoyed the legendary Godzilla King of the Monsters. I thought that was as good of a modern take on the classic Godzilla as you could get. I liked Cloverfield. For me, the gimmick of the handheld footage, like that was still novel and fun for me.
Yeah. So doesn't Cloverfield have like that multiverse thing going on?
Huh?
Doesn't Cloverfield have some sort of like multiverse thing going on, like where there's like a bunch of movies and they're like kind of tied in?
There's 2 other Cloverfield movies that are not great and not at all connected to the original.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's see what else. So like for like classic. The 90s Gamera trilogy. Amazing. Like better than anything Godzilla was doing during that time period. For Godzilla, I really like Godzilla versus Hedorah. I really like Godzilla versus Biollante. There's some obscure ones that I've watched that I really enjoyed. There's one called Space Amoeba, which is really goofy and fun. Let's see what else. These
are some great titles because there's a bunch I have not heard of. Like yourself, I was casual. I watched what Godzilla versus Kong, which I mean, like, let's be real. Godzilla should have tore him apart. There's no way Kong should have got an axe. That was kind of plot armor heavy, but whatever. But I thought the Godzilla take was pretty beastly, like how they could sense one another. Is that kind of like how it works with the kaijus? Like there are, is there some sort of like unwritten rule, like how they're able to do that?
I think that's more just the legendary ones. Like that's been a through line throughout the, like I said, calling it the MonsterVerse.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the original like Showa era films, there's some funny ones where Godzilla talks to the other kaiju, and there's actually like word bubbles that pop up. That's really really goofy. There's a couple that get really goofy like that, and or the ones where Godzilla's got the son Minila or Minya, where they where it's more, they're more anthropomorphic, I guess is the way of putting it. So I think some of those, you know, it's one thing I like about the Godzilla universe that's been consistent, I think, throughout the 30-something films and however many years Godzilla's been around, like 70 years now, I think 50. Yeah,
it's been around quite some time.
Like all of the monsters have personality. I think I just rewatched Pacific Rim for only the second time, and there's a lot of cool stuff in that film, but one thing I think that they really miss out on is the kaiju have no personality. They're really cool looking monsters, but they're all just cool looking monsters. They don't have a distinct personality the way that like Rodan or King Ghidorah might.
You know, it felt like they really focused on the mech suits, like more than anything, like the way they would have to synchronize to work with each other. I forgot what they called the title. You know, where they had to be on the same wavelength. That stuff was really crazy, especially when the guy took over a kaiju. Like, wasn't one of the maybe the second one or something where the dude was actually inside of it, like controlling it with his mind?
Yeah.
That was pretty insane itself.
Are you talking about Pacific Rim?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I haven't seen the second one yet.
Oh, my
bad.
I
actually haven't seen it. I thought you were talking about in Kong vs. Godzilla, the guy who's in the Ghidorah skull.
Well, maybe maybe that is what I'm talking about. I don't know. Like I said, I've only seen a couple movies. Forgive me. No, that does happen in Kong, doesn't it?
Yeah, the Mechagodzilla. I mean, spoilers for people who haven't seen it yet, but the Mechagodzilla has a psychic link.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So how did you feel about that? You think they did Mechagodzilla good, or you think it was kind of a letdown?
I thought that was a fun concept. There's been some wacky things. There's in the past in other movies that are kind of similar ideas, where they resurrect and make there's Mecha King Ghidorah, and every iteration of Mechagodzilla has been a little bit different. Like there's been versions of it that were created by aliens. There's been versions of it that were kind of like Zords that people would ride in to fight Godzilla. So like that concept has changed every single time that they've revisited it anyways. I thought that one worked well for that movie. That movie, like, I feel like I would echo a lot of the critique I heard from other people where the human plot was pretty weak compared to the prior film. It's okay, not for the Team Kong and Team Godzilla. The Team Kong group I thought was pretty good with the little girl with the sign language. I liked that. I did not really care for all the subplot with Team Godzilla.
Yeah.
It got more jokey, which was just. I think when I rewatch it, I'll enjoy it more. But it was such a huge tonal shift. Like if you watched the 2014 Godzilla and skipped King of Monsters and then watched Kong vs. Godzilla, those are like entirely different types of movies.
That's basically exactly what I did too.
Yeah.
But
so it was a little bit of a tonal whiplash for me watching those back to back. But
so let's go ahead. Let's start breaking down your own kaiju universe. So this started out as a small anthology of 4 pages. You said it was a little bit of like a gag, but when did you really first start working on what led into issue 3?
Yeah, so when I was still a manager at Walmart, the last year I was there, 2019, I I was trying to figure out like how can I get some comics out there, right? I don't have time to tackle like I'm not going to be able to draw 20 pages, let alone an entire graphic novel. Because what was happening is I'd draw a few pages and then get really busy. So then I'd sit down to draw the next few pages, and I didn't like the ones I'd done before, so I kept going back and redrawing. I was like redrawing.
Were you doing it by hand or digital?
I've been drawing for the last few years, primarily digital on Procreate on my iPad. So again, one of the traps of working digital is it's so easy to just like keep fiddling and redoing things that I was basically like falling into a trap where I just kept redoing things over and over. And there was a short that I did that was a 10-page short called Clown Car with writer Patrick Barb. And it took me over 2 years to draw these 10 pages because I kept redrawing and redrawing. And it wasn't
like, come on, man, come on.
Yeah, it wasn't for anything. So like, I had no deadline, right? So I was just like, I just kept fiddling with it and finally finished it. But I'm like, I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to drag something on for that long.
So how did you end up pushing yourself to finish it? Like what ended up like being like, I guess, the breaking point?
I don't even remember with that one, but for like, so like looking ahead towards Stomped, I started working on Stomped before I left Walmart. And the idea was like, if I could do an anthology, if I can team up with some other artists, reach out to people that I've met through social media and things, and like maybe someone will go for it and we can put it on Kickstarter and see how it goes, right? And when I started crunching the numbers, I'm like, well, I can't afford to do like a complete like big anthology, but I could do it in chunks where I could draw one story. I can do 12 pages. Like I know I can force myself to get 12 pages done. And so if someone else does another 12 pages, you've got 24 pages, you put in some bonus material, you've got a good sized little comic there. So that's been the model that I've taken with Stomped so we're on the 3rd issue now. But the first 2 issues came out in 2020. Both of them were successfully funded through Kickstarter. Got, here's the first issue. Here's an issue. These are my proofs from the printer.
So how did it feel, I guess? You said you didn't do the anthology until issue 2, right?
I drew
splitting the work up with other people.
What was that?
When did you start having other artists on? I thought you said you did one completely by yourself, right?
Not Stomped. No, I did one of the
I gotcha.
So each issue has 2 stories. So the first issue, Andre Diaz, he drew the second story, and so it was so great to have him turning in pages, because that would motivate me, like, oh,
to finish yours.
He's got 6 pages done and I've only got 2 pages done. Like I need to catch up, right?
So how hard was it to find someone though? I mean, was it weird for you to kind of break away, like being a one-man show and like giving that work to someone else to draw?
No, it wasn't that weird. It was I was very, very lucky that Andre he had drawn this like funny picture of a giant monster humping a building. And I was like, there's like that weird sense of humor in the monster design. I was like, that's kind of in line with what I was planning on doing with the anthology, is these weird little standalone stories. And so
these monsters humping buildings.
and he was like, I don't know, just like perfect timing. Like he was, I guess, at the same kind of point in his comics, and illustration career, where he's like, I just want a project that I know is going to get finished. And we talked a little bit about pay, we talked about crowdfunding, but I was very upfront. I'm like, I don't know, I haven't done this before. I did my research. I think this is what we could expect to make, and if we're able to make that much, like, here's the page rate that I can offer you. And so he took a leap of faith and was all in on this first issue, which inspired me to like hunker down and get it done. I switched jobs at that time too, so the job that I was working was way less demanding.
Oh, that's some saving grace right there, huh?
Yeah, I honestly don't even know if I would have been able to even, like, I would have finished it. I'm the type of person, like, if I start something, I'm going to finish it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would not have been able to do 2 issues in 2020 if I had still been working retail. So yeah, we had that first issue was, you know, a modest success, and then I moved on to the second issue, and the second issue features two other artists, Hugo Field-Permoy and Guy Pradell. And there's a backup in there by I'm looking at the comics to make sure I'm not forgetting anyone.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
Matthew Sargent did the backup story there.
So you didn't have you didn't do any of the art in issue 2, correct?
No.
Okay.
And originally I was only going to draw the one story and let other artists draw the other 7 that I had originally planned. I planned to do 4 issues, each one with two 12-page shorts.
Okay.
Now, as the project has evolved, and originally these standalone stories weren't going to have a lot of connective tissue, but as I started developing the larger world of Stomped and had some ideas for some future narratives that I wanted to tell, I started wanting them to be more connected, or maybe not directly connected, but setting up things for the future.
Yeah.
So I started rethinking how I wanted to approach it, and one thing, like, I undervalued myself as an artist. After the first issue, I got people saying, like, I want more of that. Like, I want more of that story that you did, and I want more of that character that you did. And I'm like, oh, like, that made me feel great, but that wasn't, like, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready to do a 120-page graphic novel.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to do my own miniseries yet. So for issue 3, there was a delay between about a year gap between issues 2 and 3, and in that time, like, there are some other artists that I had lined up who had to drop out, or, you know, I shuffled some things around where, you know, the original story idea that I had, like, didn't quite fit what I wanted to do anymore. So instead of being one of the main 12-pagers, it became one of the 6-page backups or something.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I decided to go ahead and draw another story for issue 3, and also brought back one of the artists from issue 2 as well, to try to like just give it more of a cohesive feeling. And I think, you know, hopefully people dig it, and hopefully people understand that, like, there's these are meant to stand alone, but there's, if you're paying attention, there's a little Easter eggs and things and that pop up and across the different stories.
So where would you, I know we talked about it before, before we actually started recording, which, man, dude, we've had such awesome conversation. I'm going to keep, by the way, I'm keeping all of that in the beginning. I'm going to edit it, and we're just going to start from there and then properly introduce, because it was so, man, you were just like a wealth of information. But and we talked about it earlier, but where did your ideas for the anthology come from? Like, breaking it up into individual stories like this and sharing it with one another.
Yeah, that's kind of, I do a lot of writing when I'm walking my dog. So I'll walk the dog around the neighborhood, and I'll just be, like, rolling ideas around in my head and seeing what fits. So for Stomped, I kind of, like, thought about what are some of my favorite monster movies and what would be my take on a short comic version of that. So issue 1, one of the stories has, like, a lot of Jurassic Park kind of DNA in it. And the story that I drew, Blind Date, which is setting up the main character for the ongoing story that I want to use as a follow-up to the anthology, that's got more of a classic superhero, you know, Ultraman kind of vibe to it. And the Ultraman, second issue, dude.
Ultraman is a good one. You the Earth 3,
and so that's in the one of the stories in the first issue. And then issue 2, there's one that's very, like, inspired by The Thing, and then one that's more of, like, a classic, just, you know, Kaiju, giant monster in the city. And then so for issue 3, it's more of that, like, kind of classic Kaiju feel to it, where, like, the characters, well, I guess, I don't know. The characters are, it's fairly character driven, but the section, the one that I didn't draw is introducing a specific character that I have plans for down the road.
I gotcha.
So that's one thing. Like, one of the main through lines through the anthology is I'm interested in, like, what if there were giant monsters in our world today. The timeline of Stomped is around the early 2000s to now, and so, like, how would civilization and how would technology have been altered due to the presence of these giant monsters? And I didn't want to get too sci-fi with it. Like, so one of my rules before I started was there's no giant robots. You know, there's no aliens or anything. It's like, there's these monsters. I don't ever explain really where they came from. How, like, what would we do? Would we nuke them all? Would we just let them be? You know, some of the, like, fun ideas that I've played with is, like, you know, urban developments, like there'd be whole neighborhoods built that had kaiju shelters underneath, and tunnels so that people could, like, get out of the neighborhood. And
wasn't issue 2 something about that? I think I remember being in a space where you had the artist with you that drew that. So issue 2, the backup, kind of plays with that idea where there's a town that's destroyed, and there's people who are, like, sheltering at home in their bunkers, that's awesome, dude.
But they're still, like, ordering pizza and delivery and things, and so they're still
I think that type of world building is so awesome because you don't see that a lot. You don't see a lot of, like, you know, when there's, like, superheroes fighting superheroes, the backlash, like how normal civilians are affected, you know, how their homes get destroyed and everything. It kind of reminds me, have you ever seen District 9, I think, where it's, like, about the aliens and how, like, they have just, like, poor sections of, like, villages dedicated to, like, making these, like, aliens, like, live on the streets in the slums.
Yeah, that honestly, I kind of I kind of forgot about that film, but now that you say that, like, that was a huge inspiration. Like, when that movie came out, like, that one, and, like, Cloverfield I mentioned earlier, that whole, like, you're there with a camera aesthetic. I know some people hate it, but, like, for me that totally works. It's like, I want to know what it's like to be there.
Yes.
That's why, you know, talking about Godzilla 2014 versus, you know, Godzilla versus Kong, you know, in the 2014 film, you're always looking up at Godzilla, and you're always seeing Godzilla through the smoke or through the buildings. You're like, it's the human perspective versus and I keep getting forget, is it Kong versus Godzilla or Godzilla versus Kong?
I think it's Godzilla versus Kong.
I
don't know either. I don't know.
That one, the camera's, like, always at eye level with the monsters or above them. You're always, like, looking down, and you lose entirely that human perspective, and it becomes more it's a monster wrestling match. And so, like, which is fun, but that's not what I wanted to do with Stomped. I didn't want it to be a monster wrestling match. I wanted it to be, like, what are the people doing? Like, how is this affecting people's lives? Are there Instagram influencers out there who are trying to get selfies with the monster in the background? You know, like, that sort of nonsense. Like, that's what would happen, right? So there, you know, there's some weird sci-fi stuff in there too. With
what's you said you're going to be focusing on the girl who's going to have, like, powers. You said something like Ultraman. That's the Ultraman from DC, right? Like the Crime Syndicate one. That's like evil Superman.
No, Ultraman, like the classic Japanese TV show. Yeah.
I'm an idiot. You know, I totally forgot Ultraman. So in the DC realm of things, Earth 3, the Crime Syndicate, it's the evil Justice League. Ultraman's like the evil Superman. And so when you said Ultraman, huh?
Is that what he's called?
Yeah, Ultraman. And, like, he's like studded out. He has, like, these big, like, this, like, crazy looking belt, and he's all, like, ripped up, and it's like one of those things.
He's like the ripoff of Marvel's ripoff of Superman.
Yes,
Marvel
dude.
has Hyperion or whatever, and then like DC, like, ripped off the ripoff.
It was insane though. So that's why when you were saying earlier, like, Ultraman, I was like, damn, like, because Ultraman goes pretty ham, like, because he's evil and stuff.
Yeah, no. So no, I just meant just like I don't want to call it a superhero comic, but I mean, really, the main character is a superhero. There's no way of getting around it. So yeah, I don't know if I said this clearly before, but after we finish the Stomped Anthology, I have a plan for either a graphic novel or a mini series featuring a character, Kim Corrigan, who appears in one of the stories in the first anthology.
Is she the one with the green hair?
It's pink in the first issue, but then there's a backup, like a little bonus comic that I did where she's got green hair.
Okay, yep, that's what I touched. She is a badass, dude. Holy crap! Like, so going from the kaiju to her, I mean, what was your influences there? Was it hard to write a story surrounding her when you were so used to writing stories surrounding like these big creatures and their impact on the world?
So I mean, so her story was actually the original idea for Stomp. So before I came up with the idea for the anthology, I had this idea for a character that was like kind of like the elevator pitch would be like, what if this is a dated reference, what if Courtney Love had the powers of Superman?
Okay, yeah.
What if this like trashy punk rocker girl who's a recovering addict was the only one who had superpowers, and it was like all the pressure was on them to save city after city from these giant monsters. And so I had some like weird things that I was inspired by. Like her dad is a scientist who studies the kaiju, and he's kind of inspired by the TV show House MD. So he's this cantankerous, like narcissist. And
always right.
Yeah, and like like kind of like I also kind of talk about it like in terms of Powerpuff Girls, where I would like to like and I know there was like some really bad TV pilot or something that they made that was like an adult take on the Powerpuff Girls, but that was kind of like my original idea, is like what would people like these kids cartoon characters grow up to be like, right?
Oh, yeah, dude.
All that pressure throughout their entire life to be a hero or to be a genius.
Whatever happened to that? That was a thing, right? Where they were gonna make Powerpuff Girls when they were like adults.
Yeah, I think like the script leaked and it got really bad publicity, and I think they scrapped the pilot. They might redo it now, but
hey, we also have Amy Taylor in chat saying your comic looks sick, and I gotta agree. Like I said, when Ross first, I remember when I first started doing this, I had a post and Ross posted this, and I was like, I gotta get to this. And I remember when I hit you up, I think it was your birthday. I was like, happy birthday! But by the way, like, let's talk about your book sometime. Like, yeah, dude, fantastic. I love the artwork, Ross. It's just, this is gorgeous. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive more on her. Sorry about that.
Oh yeah, so yeah, what do you want to talk about next?
Where are we gonna go from here with issue 3? Are we diving in? I think you said you had 7 stories and you do 2 per issue. So do you have 1 left, or are you gonna be moving on to?
So there's 8 total.
Or 8, okay.
Because originally I was gonna draw 1 and then have 7 other artists, but now for so issue 3, I'm waiting to get some one of the stories back from the letterer. Once I gotta put together the file, send that off to the printer. My hope is to get all the rewards and things from the Kickstarter all fulfilled and out to people by hopefully June, July timeframe. And then I'm going to be ramping up to issue 4, and I'm going to try to get issue 4 completed before we launch it in October. Things could change, but right now I'm trying to get issue 4 all completed, so that it's like all I need to do is like hit that funding goal. Boom, I've got the funds, send it off to the printer, good to go, and get that out by the end of the year.
So your Kickstarter was 5,000 though, and you smashed it with 6,632. Once again, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
999 backers as well. That's pretty outstanding number. I know you already, usually this part of the show we're actually going over the Kickstarter, but since you already successfully completed it, what would you say like some of the things you did to kind of help you hit that number? I mean, did you do any sort of like pre-book launching? What was I guess like some of your tactics?
I don't think I did enough. I mean, it ended up being okay. I feel like I I've been able to grow the audience for Stomped organically. Having the 1 year gap between issues 2 and 3, I think helped, because I was able to like send out more copies to people, send out more PDFs to people, had a little bit of word of mouth, and I started to reach out more to like existing, you know, kaiju fan communities and things. And I gotta say, like, a big shout out to the Hellboy Book Club podcast. I'm a huge fan of the Hellboy comics, and that fan community is very positive, and they gave me a lot of support for those first 2 issues. And so a lot of the backers were people that like I had connected with through social media through the Hellboy Book Club. So
what was your reception like from the Kaiju fans, though? Do they love the designs and the creatures? Because these were all brand new creatures, right?
Yeah, and I feel like I'm still connecting with that crowd, right? I feel like I'm still a little bit of an outsider, so I've been like trying to be more proactive about following the Godzilla fan page on Facebook and things like that, and like listening to more kaiju related podcasts and things. And like, yeah, I still feel like there's an audience there that I haven't fully tapped into yet. But yeah, I have, there's a podcast, the Earth Destruction Directive. That guy, Luke Giaconetti, he's been doing his Kaiju podcast for like 11 years or something. And so he's like as deep of a fan as you can get. Like, this guy is committed, and he actually covered the first 2 issues in his podcast.
Oh, dude, so that was awesome for you, I bet. Like, that has to be like a holy grail, like within what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah, he was like, had a lot of really positive things to say about it, and he kind of like came out of like, I have no idea what this is or who this guy is. Like, someone just said, hey, here's a kaiju comic that's like really small indie project, and you know, he seemed to like it, and so I'm kind of just hoping to grow on that.
So how did that feel, like having someone who's like kind of big within the you know, the area, like, kind of cover your book? Like, were you nervous at all?
Yeah, it's validating in the sense that I told you earlier, like, when I started Stomped, I was a very casual fan of like the monster genre. I have now watched all 30 Godzilla films, all like however many Gamera films. Like, I've been doing my homework because I want the diehard fans who've been fans for, you know, longer than I've been alive. You know, Godzilla's been around since the 50s, right? So, yeah. Like, I want them to hopefully connect with this, you know, as well. You know, I don't want it to feel like a critique of the kaiju genre, because I think sometimes people will come at a genre as like, well, I'm not a fan of superheroes, but here's my gritty take on superheroes, or I'm not a fan of westerns, but here's my revisionist take on westerns. And I don't want it to come across like that. I want it to feel like very genuine and very like, you know, I want to know what the tropes are so that I can decide whether or not I want to use them or subvert them. What I don't want is to like someone else to read it and be like, well, this is just a ripoff of this, and me not know that. Like, if I'm doing something that's been done, I want to know that.
Yeah, tell me, please.
and so yeah, it is good to have people who have been longtime fans of the genre like connecting with it and been promoting it.
So I don't want to get off tangent, because I still want to talk about the Kickstarter, but like, with this in mind, since we're hot on the topic, when you were talking to your artist about creating these kaiju, like, how did you do that? Like, how were you able to, I guess, like, create this while stepping over, you know, that fine line of like, this is copying and this is like, this looks too close?
I don't know if you'll be able to see this very well. So for issue 1, the first artist that I collaborated with, having never written for another artist before, like, you know, I was still feeling my way through that, and I sent him a script, but I also sent him thumbnails. So that's the thumbnail I sent him.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
the monster, and that's the design he sent me like a day later.
That's freaking awesome. Yeah.
And he let's see, I'm trying, there's a pretty good splash page in here. Like, I mean, he absolutely nailed
that's gorgeous.
The design, like as if he could see into my brain. I was amazed. Like, I couldn't believe how simpatico we were in terms of our are creature designs.
Mm-hmm.
There's also some ape kaiju hybrids that appear in that story that, again, I just described them, and what he sent me, I was like, this is like how are you so like perfect
So
for this, right?
what about the other artists though? I mean, that's just one of them, right?
Yeah.
So how's the, like, have you had similar experiences with the rest of them, or has there been any, like, I guess, like conflicting, like where you...
Yeah. I would say, like, so after the first issue, we kind of had this template where we've got this big red mantis, and then the one that I designed, which kind of has more like classic like giant reptile, with some whale and catfish and things thrown in there.
Yeah.
So I kind of like, here's what we've done so far, like come up with something that could be connected to those two ideas, right?
Gotcha.
Like, you know, my thinking is with each story, eventually, like, you could kind of put the kaiju on a lineup and kind of see how they relate to each other. So if you take this mantis one and this big fat lizard one, like they don't look at all the same, but we'll start to fill in the gaps and kind of see how, like, maybe there's like a family tree going on. Maybe they are connected somehow. So yeah, the second issue, the artist for one of the stories, Guy Pradell, he did a whole bunch of different designs, and we kind of like narrowed it down. And so, like, some of his were pretty wild, but we kind of gravitated back towards a more classic looking, you know, giant lizard. And the other story, the one that's kind of inspired by The Thing, it doesn't have a giant kaiju in the same sense that the other ones do. It has a hunk of kaiju flesh that grows, and so that one was I had a more very clear idea in my head of what that could look like. So I actually sent him some sketches that I had done, and he kind of took that and did it in his own style. So it's artist to artist. Like, there have been different ways of collaborating, and that's been kind of the fun too, is like doing it different ways, like letting people just completely do it on their own,
and
versus me. Yeah,
I was gonna say that was kind of like when you were talking about, like, your film experience, how they would take your projects and work on something different over the weekend and stuff with it. That's a pretty cool concept. I still really think that's super interesting as well. Yeah. Oh man, I'm so stoked. So when could people, you said, expect to start getting the physical copies of this?
So hopefully by realistically now, hopefully sometime in July.
I had to double check, and I got me a physical coming. Like I you know, I always love getting a digital. PDFs, you know, $5 here and there, that's you know, pocket change. I love throwing that, you know, just when I can. But like this, I wanted to make sure I got a physical, because this one, like, I cannot wait. It looks like it's gonna be just gorgeous on the paper too.
Yeah, the printer, Comics Wellspring, like, they've done a really good job. I've been really happy with the work that they've done. So I really do think, like, print's the way to go. But also, like, I am so appreciative of digital backers, because that's all profits, right? I'm not. Yeah. You know, like, there's no printing expenses, there's no shipping expenses. So digital backers are really doing a lot to help to, like, cover those unforeseen expenses that do come up, right? So, like, I hope people understand that, like, if all you can do is $5 or $10, you know, or whatever, like, that still, like, helps us out so much.
Oh yeah.
Because I get it. Like, shipping costs, especially like international shipping costs, are absolutely ridiculous right now.
Man, digital is just like perfect for that, because you don't have to even worry about it. There's no shipping cost for an email, you know.
Yeah. So I mean, I've talked about maybe once we finish the 4th issue, eventually doing like a collected volume that has all 8 stories, and maybe throwing in a couple new ones to make it worthwhile for the people who have the single issues. But yeah, for now, like, having like, you know, right now I've got 2 which are out of print, but I'm gonna reprint them along with issue 3, and all 3 issues will be available from my website.
Which we're gonna have that in the description as well.
And my do that again for issue 4. One of the things, like one of the reasons I think we grew, or I mean, I know one of the reasons that we grew on this 3rd issue in terms of backers was there was a lot of people who went for the print bundle where you get all 3 issues, and a lot of people went for the digital bundle where they get PDFs of all 3 issues. And so that's really exciting to me, especially the people getting the print bundle, because maybe they got the digital in the first 2, but they're like, no, I want to have these now.
Yeah, no, after reading the first 2, really I wish I would have got the physical for the other 2. Because I love it. I love like what you like, the concept of having a different artist for each one is awesome, because it keeps it like, not saying other comics aren't fresh, but it helps give it that essence of fresh, because it's essentially different, like it's a different art form and everything. So
if you want to get copies of the first 2, I'll hold them, because I might, just send me a message, because I want to make sure people are getting it. I want to make sure I'm printing enough, honestly, because I'm very careful about my budgeting. I'm not really spending anything. I'm trying not to spend a lot out of pocket, right?
Yeah.
But I also don't want to prevent people who want it from being able to get it. So like anybody who has backed it, or if you missed the Kickstarter, send me a message on social media, and like I'll see what I can do. Maybe I can even set up some sort of pre-order thing on my website to give me an idea of how many extra to print, because I want to have some. I'm gonna try to start tabling at conventions, maybe maybe next year. So I want to have it.
With the Kickstarter, we talked about kind of like what you did to help build that momentum, I guess outside of just finding that community, was there anything else that you that saw helped with, maybe ways of interacting on like Twitter? Or did Twitter Spaces do anything for you, or like what platforms, I guess, would like, because usually when I do this, it's a tool to help the person I'm interviewing get their comic a spotlight, but you already successfully did yours, so hopefully in that aspect, someone watching who is an indie creator or is watching this, and hopefully they can maybe take some notes or learn something. So I guess, like, was there anything else, like how you interacted, that kind of helped push that tide in your favor?
I'd say it's especially if you're like new, getting started out, don't undervalue the existing Kickstarter community. There are a lot of people who just browse Kickstarter looking for cool looking projects to back, and so all 3 issues I've gotten the analytics. Kickstarter will show you like where people came from. So you can see like how many people came from links that you posted on Twitter or Facebook, or how many people like just found it like doing searches on Kickstarter, and it's a substantial amount. I mean, I think about, I can't remember now, like, but around a quarter of the backers.
What would you say Twitter was for you? Because that's where I found you, was Twitter.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, that's where I'm most directly active. So I think. Quite a few came from Twitter, and like I said, it's like I feel like it's just building it organically. So I was already a part of the Hellboy Book Club fan community, right? So I reach out to however many people were there, right? So let's say that's 20 people who listened to that podcast back the book the first time around. If every single one of them gets one more person interested, then you've doubled your number, right? I really do think that sort of just person to person, word of mouth, really made a difference. For sort of in last year, I did a graphic novel called Milagro, which I drew. It was written by Guillermo Zegara and created by Matt Strackbine, who did the colors and letters. We did a lot to promote that within like the wrestling community and things, because it's about a lucha libre.
Are you a big wrestling fan too?
No, not at all. It was a very strange project. I just did the project because I'm buddies with the guy, with Matt, and he approached me about it, and I could kind of see it in my head, and I'm like, that it was just the right thing at the right time. And so like he did a lot of promoting it in the wrestling community, and like he did a lot of like promoting it on like left-wing like talk shows and things like on YouTube and stuff. So like what I'm getting at is this, like, you're already a part of a community, and maybe that community isn't directly interested in what you're doing, but they care about you as a creator, and so they're gonna support you. Like, don't be like, well, you know, I'm a huge whatever fan, but I'm doing this. They won't be interested because it's not that. Like, don't think that way. Like,
absolutely.
They're invested in you as a creator, and so maybe it's not something that's like their favorite genre or something, but you know, they're gonna come out and you know, one thing I was very like pleasantly surprised about the first few Kickstarters I did, I didn't get as many backers as I was hoping for, but the average pledge was about twice as what I thought it would be.
Yeah, no, that, and so what do you think attributed to that?
Well, one thing, like pretty much all of our reward tiers are some form of original art. And so like fans of comics or fans of artwork, like I'm like, I don't want to make prizes or rewards that I have to put more money into, but I can put time into it. You know, I can't make mugs and t-shirts and stickers and things like that, or pay people to do variant covers. I can sit down and draw a bunch of commissions, and so that's how I approached the reward tiers, is like different commission levels and different you know, black and white line drawing versus like a big 17 by 11 you know, markered colored piece of artwork. Yeah, so that I think that helped as well, because again, I want people to be you know, I always try to like I'm always trying to one up the last thing I did, right? So if I tell someone it's like a single character commission, I'm going to cram more characters on there if I can, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
If I say it's going to be black and white, I might go ahead and put some grayscale or like a spot color. Like, I'm always trying to do creating more work for myself, because I want people to feel like they got their money's worth.
And I think building
they're taking a chance on me, right?
Yes, and building that rapport with them gets them to come back again, you know? Because they're going to be like, you know, I took that chance and he gave me more than I was expecting. That's brilliant. Do you think your years of retail kind of bled into that too? Just the way you stack these tiers up to kind of benefit them the most?
I mean, I do sometimes think in terms of like, you know, how many hours did I spend on this? So how much money did I make per hour? And then like, if I wasn't getting paid to do this, would I be drawing something like this anyway? Yeah, probably. So I'm like, I'm getting paid to practice, or I'm getting paid to, like,
dude.
To like do something that for years I would just do on my own, right? So like, to me, that's like, I feel very fortunate to be in a position now where I have a few people who've supported everything I've done, and who've gotten multiple commissions and things from me. It's something that like is, you know, originally was way outside my comfort zone, and I think most artists do kind of struggle with like, how do you value yourself monetarily? You know, how much is my art or my craft worth? You know, and
it has to be impossible to ask, right?
Yeah, you have to kind of like just feel it out, and if, you know, kind of the general rule of thumb, if you're getting more work than you can keep up with, well, you gotta raise your prices, right?
Yeah.
and you can't. Yeah.
For you though, was it hard to do that? Do you think it was hard to do that, or do you think you know, had been like undervaluing yourself? Like, how do you feel, I guess, about that?
I mean, I hear plenty of people tell me that I should charge more for some of my stuff.
Yeah, your art is phenomenal, dude. Like, for real, like, oh, it's gorgeous. So
I kind of so that's the other thing too, is like, I use the Kickstarter campaigns as my commission list for the year. So like, that's, you know, if you want a piece of original art from me, that's the way to do it.
That's brilliant.
Support the project I'm working on, and then you get your commission that you were maybe thinking about, you know, getting anyways.
So is that the only way for them to do it? Pretty much is to pledge.
Not. I mean, that's not a hard rule. I've done some other things. I've done some illustrations for a classic fantasy role-playing game called the Chronicles of Ares, And so that was just something that I did on the side.
Is that like a tabletop?
It's like a classic like Dungeons and Dragons game.
Okay, yeah.
Which I'm not in that world. I don't even know how the guy like connected with me, but he actually got a few of the other Stomped artists on board as well.
Yo, isn't it crazy how connections like that just like snowball into bigger things?
Yeah, and so like that's been fun because it's like I've been so focused on this one story world, Stomped, that kaiju thing, but then I get to come over here and draw some elves and warlocks and things like it's kind of fun to like have something else that I can just do as like kind of a palate cleanser. And that's the fun thing about doing commissions is like you never know what people are going to request.
Yes, sir.
You're gonna get some like standard Marvel DC characters and things, but like I'm trying to think of some of the funnier ones. Someone requested a giant isopod, which is like just a creature that like lives in the water that looks like a giant potato bug.
Oh wait, like the roly-polies?
Yeah.
Oh my god! And like when I first learned they weren't called roly-polies, I was so devastated because like as a kid you poke them and they roll up. It's like
every I think like no matter like geographically people call them different things because I grew up calling them roly-poly bugs, but people call them pill bugs, people call them potato bugs, people call them all sorts of things. But yeah, so like I get funny things like that where it's like an animal or like a video game or an anime character that I have like no idea what this is. So then it's like it's kind of I'm like, why are you asking me to draw this? But I'll do my best,
But the cool thing is it's forcing you to get out of your comfort zone. You're getting paid for it, So I mean, while it's still kind of like, I mean, it has to be rewarding though once you get it done.
Yeah, one of I would say like the commission that I've done in the last couple of years that I like the best is someone asked me to do like Kaiju Babies. So like Minila, the Mothra larva, and a baby Rodan, which all appear in the Showa era films. So I was like that was really fun because it's totally in my wheelhouse, but it's also a little bit different, like cute takes, and I was like I didn't want to go like they're not like chibi or anything, they're not cartoony, they're just taking these weird creatures and making them look sort of realistic, but also like if you saw an adorable lizard or frog, trying to make something that's so weird looking and make it fun. That was a lot of fun challenge, and so I like when I get some things kind of like that where it's a little bit like a different take on something that I already enjoy.
So what were some of your more popular tiers that you would say kind of sold the best for anyone that's out there kind of thinking about tiers and stuff?
For this last one, it was the bundles. So I think I had more people who were just interested in like what is this comic all about, kind of getting caught up. I have raised the prices on the commissions each campaign, and I think because of that, like fewer people can spend that much money. Like if you raise something from $50 to $75 to $100, you're gonna have some drop off in people who can afford that, which is totally
like you said, once you get too many, you got to up that price too.
So so like I would say like the big ones on this last campaign were just the comic itself, which is great. We sold Joshua Green, who did the 6-page backup, who sold 3 pages of original art from his story, which I gotta say I'm a little selfish. I'm glad we didn't sell all 6 because I'm hoping that I could set up a trade with him and trade him one of my pages for one of his. But yeah, like you never know, because comic original art is kind of it's a very niche collector's thing. But
it's so cool to have that, because it's one of a kind.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I would rather have a page than a pinup because, like, I'm learning more from a page, like the storytelling choices, the panel layouts, the different hash marks and things. So yeah, for me personally, like, I have a couple pages of original art. Like I'm just starting my little collection, but I really appreciate the people who are willing to go for those sort of rewards.
So what's some of your favorites that you got?
I mean, so I've got a Tusken Raider page from a Darth Vader backup that was drawn by Max Fiumara.
So what did you think about the Book of Boba Fett, where they introduced him, right? Isn't that what happened in like the first episode?
Yeah. I don't know. Like that. I like Star Wars. It was fun.
Wasn't a fan of the Book of Boba Fett?
That was not like... and that was not a cohesive season of TV.
I agree with you 100%, though.
They should have just made it like... They should just gone like full anthology with that and just like had every episode switch up who the character was.
You know, like, the first episode, I guess, was like my favorite because I kind of appreciated how they got him out of that situation, showing, you know, coming, and then like the way he got treated in the beginning and stuff. But after that, I fell off of it. I had no interest. And then I seen something like where they all had like little like scooters, and I was like, oh, they're going Power Rangers with it. Like,
yeah, I don't know. It was like, I mean, because Robert Rodriguez was like the showrunner, and so it's like, so you've got the guy who on the one hand created Desperado, El Mariachi, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and then on the other hand, Spy Kids, right?
Yeah.
So like Star Wars within his filmography sits somewhere in between those two extremes. And so I wasn't surprised by some of the goofier stuff that they did, and I don't know, it felt ultimately unnecessary, but it was still fun. You know?
So what's, I guess, sticking on Star Wars a little bit, which of the three trilogies are your favorite? I'll answer first. I will say the first, because I grew up, my dad, I remember watching The Emperor Strikes Back with my dad, so like, I don't know, maybe I'm a boomer. I love the old stuff, you know, and then I liked, you know, the second, what is it, The Phantom Menace, because when I was a kid, that's like when I was a teenager, that was coming out. Like, I remember saving up all the Mountain Dew cans, like with Samuel L. Jackson and Obi-Wan, and never opening them, like, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're right there, because like my dad, huge Star Wars fan. He has read every single Star Wars book. We had a hefty collection of various Star Wars comics and things. He's a big collector, so he's got all the spaceships and things that would be sitting in his office, and so like he shared that with me at an early age. I can remember, I don't know exactly how old I was, but like I can picture being a kid and like sitting around and watching the VHS Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
Like we'd watch one each night for 3 nights, and you know, I have a very vivid memory. Okay, talking about monsters in general, my earliest Star Wars memory was I was camping with my parents and grandparents. They have like a fifth wheel trailer camping, so they have like a little convenience store there on the campground next to the swimming pool and the shuffleboard and the, you know, miniature golf, right? And they have a little gaming room with like a pool table or something, and on TV was Star Wars was playing on TV, and it was the scene where then the trash compactor and the Dianoga pops up with eyeball, and I had to be like maybe not even in kindergarten yet. I don't know exactly how old I was, but pretty young, and I was like just transfixed by that red eye popping out of the trash, and I might be making up half of this memory. This is the way I remember it. It's my dad kind of being like, "Oh, like you don't think that's scary? No, that's cool." So I think it was not long after that they had re-released the movies on VHS, and you know, so my dad I remember he got the VHS box set for Christmas one year, and then we watched
those
them
box
all.
sets weren't any joke either. Like I remember like it was like dual VHS and one like and for one movie you
like
had
a fold out cover.
Yeah, dude, it was so wild. Speaking of Star Wars, check this out. I am 40 subs away from building this, but we're gonna build this live. I think you'll like it. I was excited because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but also a huge Lego fan. So we're building this once I hit 500 subs on YouTube. Yeah, I actually I built Boba Fett's ship maybe a month ago. So like right when that came out, they did like a little Lego promotion on it.
My dad still does. Like my dad, like just last Christmas, he texted me pictures of Star Wars Legos that he's building, and because my dad is such a like hardcore collector, like I did not inherit that gene. So I'm like you can see behind me, like that's my comic collection right there. Like you know, I got omnibuses and trades, but like I don't have piles and piles of back issues. I don't have a lot of toys or anything. I you know, that stuff is all fun, but I'm the opposite. I see how it can take over. My youngest brother, he definitely got that from my dad. So like he's got this whole shrine in his closet that's like devoted to Halo, like every single Halo action figure ever.
I feel so bad for him because I heard the latest Halo TV series sucks. Oh man, I heard it was horrible.
He lives in Brazil now, so I don't even know if like he has access to some of those streaming things. But yeah, so I don't know. I love the storytelling. I love the lore, but I don't really consider myself like a collector. Of anything. Like you know, I'm totally content to like read comics digitally and things like that. Just because like, you know, it's a lot of it takes up a lot of space.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe for me, like when I was younger, I wasn't as fortunate as I am now. So like maybe it's a part of me like wanting to like collect what I had when I was younger. You know what I mean? Like I have Emperor Strikes Back N64 on my shelf right now. Like I love that game so much. Growing up as a kid, like all of that, like
I think there's something to that. Maybe it's like I was fortunate to have that stuff because my dad was such a hardcore collector that like I'm like I don't need that in my life. Like,
but you know it works against me because I have 3 kids, so they see something cool, and after a while it's like dad. And I'm like okay, fine. And then
that's the thing too.
2 days later, broken apart.
I don't have any kids, so I don't have that temptation to buy something for them. My dad was always buying because I've got 2 brothers, so my dad was always buying toys for us, but really they were toys for himself.
Yeah, hey, but that's the thing as a dad, you got to get something because it makes playtime like that much cooler because you got all these cool toys. So yeah, oh man, we have talked almost an hour and 20 minutes. It feels like it was just a chat though. Like I said, once we get into this groove, it's so hard to break away. So we talked about your Kickstarter. We talked about, you know, the ins and outs, you know, your history. Where are we going to see, you know, let's start like gearing towards, where are we going to see this go? You know, after issue number 4, after you said you're looking at maybe creating some graphic novels and stuff, but like anything, I guess, outside of Stomps, you know, what's your future as a indie comic creator looking like?
You know, if an editor from a big publisher reached out and was like, hey, you want to work on this book? Absolutely. I dropped whatever I was doing to get the opportunity to work on a big name title, to get my name out there or whatever, and get the experience of working in that type of the context of an IP or publishing. Sure, I would do that, but that's not like, I'm not chasing that. I'm really content and excited about the projects that I've had in the back of my brain for years and years. I'm like finally have an opportunity to start doing them. So yeah, after we finished the Stomped Anthology, I've been considering doing like a small one-shot kind of palette cleanser thing, like something a little bit more goofy, maybe something more aimed towards kids, like a little sci-fi thing or a little superhero thing. I'm not sure. I might try to do something like that, and but then the next big thing would be the first volume of my original idea for Stomped, the story idea that I had. I don't know. It might be a mini series. It might be a graphic novel. If I could get a publisher like Image or something to you know, get excited about it and print it for me, like that would be awesome too. I do think that Stomped has a lot of potential to just continue to grow if I can keep on, you know, delivering and the audience is there. So I kind of have an outline of maybe like a five or so like volume storyline that I would like to do. But I have a lot of ideas, so I don't want that to be like the thing I'm working on for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it might be something where I do a volume of Stomped and then do a volume of something else. And what those other projects might be kind of depends on like just following my muses and following down, seeing what seems to be maybe like the right thing at that moment. So like Milagro was a great example. I wanted to tackle something longer. The longest comic I'd ever done up till Milagro was the 12-page story in the first issue of Stomped. I wanted to tackle something big, and so when Matt approached me about that, he's like, "It's looking like it's going to be about 60 to 70 pages, and here's the pitch for the story." I'm like, okay, but like I'm gonna, he trusted me enough that I didn't I could draw it the way that I needed to draw it to get it done. It's not as polished as some of my other stuff. It's a little rougher around the edges.
It's quadruple what you're used to working with, though.
Yeah, and I had a deadline. He gave me a generous amount of lead time.
What was the deadline?
I think I spent 6 months drawing pages. I had a month prior to that, like character designs and.
So, what did the typical 12-page look like for you, compared?
Well, so like, when I'm writing for myself, it takes much longer because I always fall into the trap of like I'll script something and then I'll redraw it and then I'll be like, well, maybe it'd be better this way. Or
the perfectionist take on it. Yeah.
Versus like being handed a script, I'm interpreting I have a foundation to build on, and it enables me to focus a little bit more, and then also the way I approached Milagro is I decided to ink it by hand instead of digitally. So I did all the layouts digitally, and then I printed them off in Blue Line, and then I inked them.
Isn't it so weird though? Like when you get handed something, like you want to work twice as hard because you don't want to like disappoint that person. But like when it's like for you, like you'll take forever because you want it to be perfect. But in the end, you're just disappointing yourself because you keep just redoing it and redoing it and redoing it.
Like I think the first issue of Stomped, some of those pages like I spent over 20 hours on, and that's including the coloring. Whereas Milagro, I think I was averaging like maybe 10 hours. Like I would spend six hours refining the layout and doing the digital pencils, and then a couple hours inking it.
Did you feel like overwhelmed at all? 60 pages. No, I mean, that seems like a lot,
I didn't, because I had enough experience at that point. Like I knew what I needed to do to get it done. And I made a very like set schedule, and so part of the reason why I wanted to ink it traditionally is like if I ink a page, it's done, and it doesn't matter like how bad I might think it is. It's like I'm not going to redraw an entire page. Like it's done. I gotta just move on to the next one, and
because so you'd be there all day,
Yeah, and so like that's why I wanted to do the project, because it was like so much bigger than anything I'd done, but I was able to do it in a way that allowed me to get over some of my hang-ups as an artist and some of my perfectionism, and I'm not worried about. I'm only worried about the art. I'm not worrying, is the story good, are the characters dynamic, like from a plot and scripting perspective. Like I didn't have to worry about that. They did great. Like they gave me great scripts. They gave me great characters to work with. And anytime I had any questions about things, because I'm not like a big wrestling fan, so the writer worked with an actual wrestling coach and choreographed all the fights for me. And so the script for Milagro, for the fight scenes, was like actual photos of each fight move. And so
that
then
probably helped a ton.
Yeah, and so like sometimes like the photos like weren't the most dynamic. So what I ended up doing, there's a 3D modeling app called, not really modeling, but it's a poser app called Magic Poser, and I would take the 3D figures and try to match them as best as I could to the photo of the wrestling move, and then I could move the camera around and adjust the lighting.
Dude, that's so awesome. Yeah, that's cool. So
yeah,
that would pretty much take like all that. Like when I was talking earlier, like I was like having to spend like 2-3 hours a week trying to figure out time differences with scheduling, and I use that app, and it just literally cuts out so much legwork. It sounds like this is what that does for you, because like it takes that light bulb and moves it all around so you can see like the different shadowing and stuff. Like that's brilliant.
Yeah. So like I don't know, it just things came together for that project that kind of let me work at a pace that I have never worked before. And I think it's so important for artists to learn how to like give yourself a break, not in terms of like stop working, but like give yourself a break in terms of beating yourself up if something's not perfect. Me and the writers both kind of have the same mentality. It's like I'd rather have something done than never finished, like, because I'm so worried about doing
that would be me. That would be me. I mean, like, I don't know though. I can almost like picture your mindset though with it. Like your, Kaiju Anthology is like your legacy, like, and your work as an artist on this project is just as important, but this is like your legacy, like this anthology, like this is what you want to live by, right? Like, so like it has to be perfect to your, I get that, because like that's the same thing with this podcast and stuff. Like it's not exactly 100% where I want it to be in production value. Well, like I spent like a long time trying to figure out like how I want the layout to look, how I wanted to do it. But then I just realized I needed to do it, because then I could have a cool layout, but if I don't have experience, like these interviews are going to be trash,
Yeah, like, that's one thing too, like kind of coming from my film school background is like your first thing's not going to be great. Like so many people want their first thing to be great. And the reality is your chances of your first thing being good are very, very low.
Yeah.
No matter who you are. Some people like, strike gold their first time, but then they're chasing it the rest of their career, right?
Exactly. Like, and when they're not hitting it, they're not feeling good.
Recreate that appetite for destruction or whatever, you never be able to achieve that again if you do it your first time out, right? So it's better to approach things and like it's all a part of a growing process. And so like I have ideas for stories that I know I'm not ready to tackle yet. So Stomped originally was kind of like a throwaway idea, but then as I started working on it, like I got more involved and more interested, and it grew way bigger than I expected. But originally it was like something that I'm like, I can, like, it was contained, right? It was like, this is something I can do and it'll be done, and then I can move on to the next thing. And it unfortunately, like maybe not unfortunately, I have a lot of ideas that are like that, where I'm like, oh, here's a nice little thing, like here's a nice little 20-page story or a single graphic novel idea, and then once you start scripting and coming up with character design and stuff, you're like, oh, this is getting too big. Like,
so I mean, is it hard to like fight that like feeling to want to go off? Like I would lose it. I might, like, with ADHD, I would be everywhere with it. Like, I mean, do you just have like stacks of notes somewhere, like with like all your future plans?
Yeah. like I've got like, here's
He's like, I got several.
Like these are all sketchbooks from when I worked at Walmart. These are all things that like have been on the back burner for years and years, and so it's just a matter of picking what's the thing that you want to focus on right now, and what you got to do to get it done. Yeah, so I don't know, like, I mean, that's still a challenge for me. That's why, like, I've got a few issues of Stomped out in the world, so like I'm gonna keep working on that now. But at some point, yeah, there'll be time to switch gears. Yeah.
No, that's phenomenal, and man, I'm excited. Like I was able to read the PDFs you sent me, and I'm loving it. I definitely love like just how everything's coming together, and just like seeing your vision, like hearing your vision, and then seeing parts of your vision that I'm able to see has just been like such a phenomenal experience. Excuse me. So you said you're going to have this on your store to possibly be able to pre-book. For anyone that's kind of, I guess, like on the fence about this, that didn't have a chance to back it, but might have a potential to buy it from the store, what would you say to kind of push them over the edge and picking up your book? Like, I guess your elevator pitch for it.
I mean, the first issue you can buy digitally on my website right now. There's a short that's available for $1. It's a short that's not in either of the printed comics too. But I mean, I don't know, like, I like to think that monsters sell themselves. If you're a fan of monsters, you know, then like you're gonna, if you're a fan of the genre, you're gonna find something to enjoy about the crap. Even like the worst examples of that genre, it's still a thing that you love. So like, you know, like I don't know, like hopefully it's not too tough of a sell. Hopefully, like, you know, the fans, you know, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. So like, you know, I realize that this is a niche kind of genre. And so you're either a fan or you're not. It's just like
so basically, you like Godzilla, you're gonna love this.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
If you're a fan of Jurassic Park, Godzilla, The Thing, all these movies that I've referenced directly, the, you know, comics, like I talk about like Hellboy and the BPRD, the way that grew, and like, you know, like that's a huge inspiration to me in terms of how they crafted the story, and I look at things like that. But then there's like so Jeff Darrow has he's like got Shaolin Cowboy is a series that he's done, and then there's one that's, what is it, Big Guy and Rusty the Boy Robot, which is, it's just like a one standalone volume. It's like completely weird, completely wacky, but that's like something that, like, he's not trying to convince people to like this. It's just like if you like it or you don't, this type of stuff, you're gonna find it.
Yeah, no, I got you. So
I hope that that's something that, like, you know, I can not disappoint, I guess, is like the main thing is, like, I hope that people read it and they're getting what was promised on the cover. Like, the covers all have 2 monsters on them. Like, there's no human characters. There's no, like, I'm not selling you on a story. I'm selling you on the fact that you're going to get 2 monsters in this comic. Right? Yeah. You know, like, that's it. And hopefully people dig it. And I will say, like, I was worried with the first issue that, like, all these other ideas that I had, like, you're not getting that in just the first issue. So hopefully you're getting enough of a tease. Hopefully there's enough there in that first issue that people will want to see what else is there. And then when issue 2 has nothing to do with the first issue, then all of a sudden they're like, oh wait, so what is this? Like, these stories are different. And hopefully like with each issue, people will start to see, oh, there is something more going on here. And so hopefully by the time I'm able to sit down and crank out the original idea, the original story, like, you know, people are already invested in it, even though they don't even know.
And it's just like, gonna connect the dots for them.
Yeah,
that's it. I just love the world that you're building. Which so before we wrap things up completely, I'm gonna be honest, this is one of my longest interviews, and I told you from the beginning, as long as we have stuff to talk about, we're gonna run it. And like, it's just been so, like, such a wealth of information. Who's your favorite out of the ones that have been designed and created so far? There has to be one that you love the most.
Out of the kaiju that I've created so far, I wish I could say my own, but no, actually, like the Mantis, because like that was really like the first piece of artwork that I got for Stomped from another artist. Was he just sent me this PDF of a big giant red mantis, and I was like, this is it. Like, this might work. This might, like, I might be able to do this.
I
feel like I have an emotional attachment to that one, and it's just an awesome design. Like, and like all I can take, I showed you that little thumbnail sketch. All I can take credit for is the vaguely triangle shaped head, and the, like, you know, the description of it being kind of
like killed it too. It looks gorgeous.
But yeah, I think it's like the most if I can say iconic, like it's the most visually distinct of the designs. The other kaiju, no, you know, were intentionally meant to be a little bit more of your classic type of giant monster, like giant dinosaur type of creature. So like that was by design, but that's a little bit outside the kind of more of the normal or the typical. So I think it kind of works really well.
Yeah, no, I definitely dude, I really appreciate you coming on. This has been such an awesome talk. I came in here not really knowing a lot about kaiju, and I'm leaving feeling like, you know, I definitely want to check out those movies you listed. That's why I asked, honestly, because I forgot to do it.
I'm gonna send out a update to Kickstarter backers, like with a list of recommendations from all the collaborators on Stomp.
Oh yeah, that'd be really awesome too. So yeah, once again, thank you for stopping on. Now we've came to the part of the episode. I always love doing this. So I always like asking people who are in the works or have successfully completed a campaign, a little bit of advice for anyone out there who's struggling. And that's pretty much like, if there's any like indie comic creator out there who's, I guess, having trouble getting their idea or project off the ground, they're just struggling getting their idea to paper, you know, what would you say was one of the most beneficial things for you to just do this when you started in, you know, creating your first comic?
I mean, so I talked already about like the value of community. I do think I was so hungry to do something, like anything, having worked in retail for 10 years. I was so like creatively constipated. I needed to get something out. Sorry for the gross visual.
No, you're good, man. You're good.
Like I just needed to get something out there, right? And so I think like sometimes, I don't know, this is my observation from someone who did not pursue a career in the arts, right? I did not do the grind as a freelance artist. I didn't go to art school. My perspective from the outside looking at that is, I think a lot of people get very like they have too many options and not enough that like the practical concerns don't allow them to like figure out like what needs to get done, like to do the work, right? It's like if you're constantly like chasing the gigs or the work for hire jobs, if you're just chasing paycheck to paycheck to paycheck, which is the reality for a lot of artists, I think that at some point you need to step back and be like, what do I want to do? And for me, it's like, I don't want to work in retail the rest of my life. So like,
dude, yeah, I would say I can't even, I'm surprised you lasted that long, man, because I worked retail, and like, I don't know, I like talking to people, don't get me wrong, but like I hate people, and I'm sure like you can relate to that. Like there's something about humanity that just like, they're ruthless. Like have some common decency, like when you're in a public outing, you know?
Someone explained this to me, that because introvert versus outrovert. I like people. I like talking to people. I always thought I was more extroverted, but I'm not. I'm more of an introvert because I get energized being by myself, reading a comic, you know, drawing. Like I get my energy from having time to myself to create. So I'm an introvert who enjoys, you know, I enjoy socializing and I enjoy talking about things, and but like, you know, being in a public job, like it wears me out. And I think that like people like understanding, like, do you get energized being around people? Because that's what an extrovert really is someone who gets energized. They get their energy from going out and doing things all the time with people, right? And then when they're by themselves, they start to go crazy. They can't be alone. And so like when I understood that distinction a little bit better, it's like, yeah, like I have to make time. And like my wife understands, like I get cranky if I go a day or two without being able to sit down and do something creative. So yeah, I think that's like the opposite can be true, where people who are like full-time artists, they're spending so much time on that, and they're not able to draw, energy from the outside,
Yeah,
like that can also be a struggle as well. So finding, as with anything, it's like finding the right balance for you. And you know, I because of the job that I used to have, I didn't have a lot of social life outside of work, you know. So like I didn't have, you know, I don't play video games. Like there's certain things that aren't a part of my life that allowed me to focus on this thing that I'm doing now. And now my day job, I really enjoy my day job. I manage a vocational program for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
That is such a rewarding.
It's very rewarding. You know, it can be stressful, it can be challenging, but it's still like, I feel like it's almost like karma, like I'm making up for all those people I had to fire at Walmart, or making up for all those, you know, like stressful
and
days.
plus, I mean, just the cold hard truth, a lot of people with like disabilities and stuff, like they don't get a lot of the attention they deserve. They don't get a lot of the kindness they deserve because people look at them in a different way, and it's really unfortunate. And I think it's just a lot of it's due to lack of education. Like, it's not that they're not incapable, they just don't have a bridge that you and I have.
And that's exactly what like our program is all about, is helping to remove barriers so that people can be successful in the like
awesome, man.
The integrated community employment is kind of the terminology that they use, but like it is you know, it's still a full-time job, but
yeah, like
mentally, emotionally, physically,
you're not bringing it home with you, huh?
It's not. It's like it's not so like soul crush. I don't know.
So I used to work for AT&T. I was a phone salesman, corporate AT&T. I was one of the top salesmen. Like we were killing it. Like it was like they had the president of Ohio, Pennsylvania come down for a little thing for our store. But then the thing is, they really wanted you to start like peddling people, like, hey, I know you're getting a new phone, let's get you TV. I hated that. I hated forcing people to like, let me make your plan cheaper so I can hook you up with that. And my job right now is not rewarding. I'm a pizza boy, so I could listen to podcasts in my car all day. I don't have to work with people and like put them in soul crushing plans and like sell them things they don't need. So for me, like that part of it, like bringing that home, like I get what you're trying to say. Like when you like you're stressed to go to work, it's hard to wake up and be like, I got to put another 8 hours in today. You know, do I want to do this? Do I just like call in? Like, dude, when you find a job, you don't have to do that. It doesn't matter. It just is amazing. You know,
making the leap from like just an associate at Walmart to a salaried manager, like. That's a big difference. And so like, I mean, I would have people, you know, employees who are, you know, stalking or whatever, and they're complaining about their job. And I'm like, I wish all I had to worry about was putting things on the shelf. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I know you think that like, this is like a tough job or something, but I was like, I wish that all I had to worry about was boop, boop, you know, like, cause it's like you can get into the zone and like your mind can be elsewhere. And what happened when I became a manager is my mind could never be elsewhere. My mind always had to be on 100 things going on in that store.
Well, I mean, because you have to look at theft prevention. You have to look at the produce, like the keeping it fresh, keeping it from like wilting. First in, first out. I'm sure on every single shelf. The way the merchandise cards, you had to have merchandise looking a certain way. I've been to Walmart a couple times where they have to just constantly change things, and that in itself, just on top of like what you have, you know, dealing with employees, you know, it's such a hard juggle.
And I worked at I mean, every store is different, but I worked at a store that was a little bit more challenging too, where you've got, you know, you're 10 pallets behind where you're supposed to be stocking wise that day, and someone's passed out shooting up in the bathroom, and like you got to deal with that. Like, so it's like that's the other thing, like people don't understand, like in a super center or some of those larger type
we have a super center where I'm at.
Yeah, like the amount of stuff that goes on there, like on a daily basis, like people, I will say all the viral videos about people flipping out about masks during COVID, like that's just a small taste. That's just a small taste of what people in the service industry have been dealing with for years and years. Like obviously that made it more obvious to everyone, but those people have always been around.
Man,
you know?
I remember, oh my, the mat, like I get it. We got to wear it too, you know? I had this one dude come in, he was a vet. I'm like, you know, or yeah, what did I do? I'm like, it was the chain shortage. So we had to take credit cards and we had to wear the mask. What are you, un-American? I'm like, no, dude, like I'm following protocol. Are you not American for not like listening to our rights too? Like, didn't you fight for that, bro? Like, come on.
Yeah. It's like, it's hard when like it's, you're put in a position where you're trying to defend some mega corporation's policies. And you're like, how do you not understand that sitting here yelling at me is not going to change our store policy?
Yeah, and it's not like you wrote it. Like, you have to enforce it. If you don't, you get fired, you know?
Yeah. It was really bad when there's a we're way off on tangent now. When there was a shooting at a Walmart, and so suddenly they made us enforce a no gun policy, and in the state of Oregon, you're allowed to open carry.
Oh, so I'm like, God.
I am not going to ask my minimum wage employees to walk up to some guy with a pistol on his shoulder and say, "Sorry, sir, you're not allowed to bring that in."
Because that's intimidating, right? Like having like
and you're just gonna have to stand there and argue with them about their constitutional rights for half an hour.
That's basically what happened. Like the Walmart tried to redo the Supercenter here tried to redo masks, but it got to a point where no one was listening, and they were just like, it's pointless, because I don't know. At the end of the day, they're about that money too, and like a lot of people like just, I don't know. Here they would like stop shopping there, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I always thought it was funny when people would threaten to not come back, and I'm like, good. Like, you know, there's a certain type of customer that you're like, I don't want to deal with you every week anymore.
You know, I had an experience where we had a lot of the self checkouts, and I get the person there watching is meant to do their job, but like there's this one in particular. You know, because I'm a heavily tattooed individual, and I don't know. I'm not trying to claim what it is, but all I would say is every single time she'd come up and she'd be like, she'd have the scanner, and I knew what she was doing. She'd be like, "Did you scan this?" And I'd open up the bag, like, "It's here, right here." And then there was like a third time, and I was with my kids, and that's what it was. You know, I don't care if it happens to me, but like when my kids are there, and then she's like, "You got this?" I'm like, "Do you think I'm stealing?" Like, and then she backed up, and I could feel like the tension. I was like, because I'm not stealing. Like, this just happens way too much. Like, I know who you are by now. I know you on a first name basis. Like, and yeah, dude, it was just.
That's the tricky thing. Because I've seen both sides, right? So like, that person doing that probably got chewed out the week prior because someone was pretending to scan something. You know, like that's the thing is like, there's and again, this is minimum wage jobs, right? Mm-hmm. So like, people. And
she didn't want to hear me bitch either. You know, I get that.
Yeah. People they're just like doing their best, and what their best is like not gonna work for everybody. I gotta be careful what I say, but you know, I have so much empathy for people.
You're cool. You're cool. Like, whatever you want to say on here. I mean, I'm not gonna hold anything against you. I've cussed a couple of times, you know. We talked about being constipated. I think the walls are down. But hey, we do have to. I mean, we're almost nearing 2 hours.
Okay.
But
we
hey,
can wrap this up.
Yeah, another extension. I'm always down to get you on again. I had such a fantastic time, guys. We're here live with Ross Radke of the Stomp Kaiju Anthology. It's just been such a roller coaster talking about the ins and outs of this. And yeah, man, once again, thank you for stopping on. Everyone who's watched, I really appreciated it. We're going to have this post-produced in a few days and edited out and cleaned up. I don't think there's much I'm going to do, though. Like I said, I think it's just been phenomenal from start to finish, so we're just going to add some background music. But once again, Ross, thank you for stopping on, and everyone who's been staying tuned up to this date. I hope you guys have a fantastic Wednesday, but most importantly, keep it geekly.